So this is a part 2 of the group by clause. Now we said that we'll be working with the pgadmin. Now we've already created the database and we have a database called the therapy. We'll be working with this database called therapy. So right here, I'll right click on the therapy database and then click on the query tools. And this is where we have our query editor. We'll be writing the statement in SQL inside here. Okay. Now we also want to check the different schema. That is, want to check the tables here. We can see we have one table called the health. Now this is a data containing, so but let's select everything. Let's select everything from the health table. So I'm going to be running this. So I think there's a mistake somewhere here. So select everything from health. Now we have all the columns selected. Now this is a data containing, is kind of a questionnaire that was sent out, and these are the results, responses from the respondents. We have the different ages of these respondents. We have their primary streaming services, and then we have how many hours they stream these services per day. We have a column containing if they stream the service while they are working, and we also want to know if these people are instrumentalists or if they are composers, and then their favorite genre. And then we have here the exploratory, we have their foreign languages if they speak foreign languages. Then we have this other section where we would want to know their BPM, and then their anxiety score, depression score, which is ranking from 0 to 10, the OCD, and then their music effect. So how does the music they listen to affect all these their health, maybe when they are anxious, or is there any improvement? Now these are the different rank scores for each of the respondents. So this person have about a score of 9. So this guy is kind of more anxious. And now we want to check if the music, these the primary streaming services they listen to, have any effect on their depression level. All right, so for us to do that, we have this primary streaming service and we want to use SQL to apply group by to this our data. Now looking at this, we do apply, for example, let's say the questionnaire that was set, let's assume that it's kind of a multiple choice question or a drop down option where a user will not be allowed to select any option outside the option that was given to them. Now, we are writing a query to see how many options the person who prepared this questionnaire really gave them. And we can even do that using the group by. So we have here what is called the primary streaming service. Now we would want to know the average number of hours that each of these respondents spent in the primary streaming services they used. So what we will do is we will write primary, this is going to be primary streaming service. This is primary streaming service. And then we said whenever you are using the group by, you must include an aggregate function. You are aggregating something. So we are working with the primary streaming service and we want to know the average hours per day that each of them spend. So we can use the AVG, stands for average, and then hours per day. All right. So we have the hours per day, and that is all for now from health. And now we are grouping by, let's say group by, we are grouping by the primary streaming service. So that's what we want to group by, primary streaming service. So if we happen to run this query, take a closer look of what you'll be getting. Now, if I run this, we have the unique primary streaming services. So we have other streaming service. We have the Spotify, YouTube Music, Pandora. I do not use a streaming service. So all these are what was included in the questionnaire, like in one of the fields for the primary streaming service. And also we can see that we have what is called the null field. Now it therefore tells us that this primary streaming service field was not a required field. That means anyone can choose to skip filling that field. I don't know if you get, so it's not a required field. This is what is called a not null. Now there was no not null constraint applied to this column, in the sense that if people, or if you don't populate data into that column, you won't be having issues. I mean, we can even have more than one null values in the primary streaming service column. Okay. So right here, we have the average number of hours is spent. So let's apply an alias, what is called an alias. So as avg average hour spent, average hour spent. Now we can see that there are several decimal places. Now we can apply the round function as well. So what the round function is, it picks in the first argument, which is the average, and then 2. We are rounding it up to 2 decimal place. Now we run this to have 304, 3.86, and other values. Then after we're done with that, we may want to further include order by. We may want to order, let's say we would want to order by the average hours spent. So we may want to order by the average hour that was spent here. And as we can see, it goes by default is in ascending order from 2 to 5. And we can even include it in descending by using the DESC. And then we have it from the highest. So this guy that did not feel the primary streaming service had the highest average hours spent in a day. All right, listening to this, nothing, like he didn't include anything here. So for Spotify, we had about 386 average hours spent. And we can also include, as we said, let's say we would want to know the average age of the people. So we have a column which we call the age. So we can call it average ages of these respondents. See their average age. And so from health primary streaming service, and then where average age, where we order by average of age. So running this query, this is basically what you are getting. So the average age of people or the respondent that listen to Spotify is around 22.7. That means younger people do listen to Spotify. Now you can see Apple Music, people within the ages of 24, 25, within that age. So that's the average age, around 22 point, all right, 0.22. Actually, ages are not in decimal places. So we can actually round it to, you can even include 0 here. Then we run it to whole numbers. So 22, the average age of people that listens to Apple Music, 24. For YouTube Music, around 28. So people that use other streaming services, 30. And I do not use a streaming service, this. So Pandora, around 50, 58. So that's their average ages. So this is basically how we can write the group by clause in SQL. So I really want to thank you for joining in the part 2 of this class, and see you in some of our other classes.